All right. What's going on, everyone? Aaron here, Clean Cuts Lawn Care. It is Monday morning. Just left the shop. It's 10 after 8. I was at the shop for an hour and a half, probably. Hour and 15 minutes finishing, getting everything ready. Here in a little bit, I'm going to update you about what happened this past week. Just a bunch of problems. And then when I came in this morning, it's like the problems just continued, and they were supposed to be solved already. So I'm heading to the first house now. Damn it! I can't back up now. I'm heading to the first house now. After I do 1 and 2, I'm gonna update you a little bit about last week. The whole week was a disaster, other than doing the job, that big trim job on Thursday, which, by the way, if you've seen the video, we did have a winner for the giveaway. The price was $21.50. So yeah, let me get through these first 2 and then I'll do a little update with you. All right, so I've been saying for the past 2 years I was gonna do this. I finally did, and I'm so happy I did too. No more bending down to start it or lifting the arms up. Just grab it and go. last week. Last week was really a pretty terrible week. You know, I had a ton of repairs to do, a ton of maintenance to do. Then that job came in, which was good, but I had to throw it in last week because it was the only time I could really get it done. Some of the things I had to do, my trailer lights weren't working correctly. I pretty much have them fixed now. Only thing I need to do is replace the rear left lamp because the connector where the yellow turn signal wire goes into isn't staying tight enough to keep the connection. So another, you know, just oil changes and all kinds of stuff, all your regular stuff, but also some repairs. The kill switch for the 30-inch you know, was acting up. I had to fix that, you know, just all kinds of stuff. So the hydro oil on the 36 needed replaced. So I ordered the kit, started doing that. Both fill plugs looked fine. I took off the old filters, drained the fluid, put on the brand new filters, opened up the left side, filled that up, went to open up the right side, and the hex or Allen key, whatever you want to call it, it was just rounded off enough to where I couldn't get it open. So I tried the next size up. That wouldn't work. I found the I found the size equivalent in metric. That didn't work. I ended up going and getting a square removal tool. That didn't work. But remember, it's not like I have the mower up on a lift where I can, you know, stand behind it and work. I'm actually laying on my back, reaching into the back of the machine. If I had a lift, I could have got it no problem. So pretty much, I ended up having to take it to the dealer, which I hate. So I told the dealer, I say, listen, the filters are brand new, feel free to use them. I said, but do the entire hydro service. You know, like you're doing it start to finish, but go ahead and use the filters. I also told him, I said, I still have 10 hours before it needs an engine oil change, but you already have it here, just go ahead and do it. I said, can I pay you guys to sharpen the blades and grease everything? He said, oh yeah, absolutely. He writes it down. I said, and then give the whole machine a look over and let me know what it needs. So they ended up calling me. They said it's done. They said the only extra thing it needed was a deck belt. It had a couple cracks in it, which I already knew that. I had seen it maybe like a week beforehand. They're gonna be closing soon. I go up there and get it, and $400. I'm like, holy shit. We leave because they're closing. First thing I notice, they didn't sharpen the blades, they didn't grease anything. Okay. Then I told Vicky as we were leaving, I said, I told her, I said, I have a feeling something's not right. So I get to work this morning and there is zero fluid in the reservoir. Zero. There's none. I'm like, son of a bitch. I figured they didn't bleed it. So I fill up the reservoir, I jack it up, open up the reservoir, and I'm going back and forth, letting it run, back and forth. And sure enough, they never bled it. There's bubbles coming. And I'm reading the paper also. They didn't do anything to the left pump, even though I told them do the whole service. You know, just like you're doing it, brand new. All they did was remove the stripped plug, fill it up with fluid, and close it. They did the oil change in a belt and charged me $400. So, and then on top of it, like I said, I had to bleed it, sharpen the blades, grease it. So I know guys personally that don't do any maintenance whatsoever. They drop everything off up at the dealer every month. How do you pay for this shit? Or why would you? I mean, because look, I know guys, if you told them to change their engine oil on a mower and their life depended on it, they would drop dead right in front of you. Why wouldn't you learn it when stuff, I didn't know it costs this much? I don't go to the dealer hardly ever for repairs and maintenance, whatever. I only did it because I was stuck. And I didn't want to keep messing around and something go wrong. And the problem was the drain plug didn't stick out far enough to get something like vice grips, channel locks, anything latched onto it. It didn't stick out enough, less than 1/4 of an inch. And then coming in this morning, finding out they didn't even bleed out the system. There wasn't even enough fluid in there because of it. I mean, if I wouldn't have noticed that, who knows? Like Bill said, who knows what could have happened? Could have damaged it. As I'm using it, I lose, maybe it don't turn for me or anything. Or you piss me off, man. That's why I don't deal with them. So that's just a small matter, of kind of what happened last week. It was just a disaster, all in all. Even with the 30-inch, I ended up having to use my old kill switch from my original mower. When I first soldered that switch back together, it worked fine, but only for a few weeks. And then I cleaned it all up, I resoldered it, boom, it worked no problem. But the problem was, as it was vibrating while using it, it was killing it, even after I resoldered it the correct way. So last week, and that's just, like I said, small examples, people think like, oh, you had most of the week off. I didn't have one day off, not even one day. Doing that big trim job was my easiest day last week at all. And those are the days you have, it happens. Here we go, the walk of shame. I didn't check the fuel at all this morning in that mower, and now I just ran out. So didn't check the fuel at all in it. Now I'm getting exactly what I have coming. Set it right there so I can pick it up on my way out. This is like one of the only yards that had some good growth after skipping it last week. Back at the shop. So Thursday, me and Robbie were talking about, well, he wasn't there for it, but the time I flipped over this mower, I was mowing in a section, and I had it on 4, which even for this belt drive is pretty fast, and out of nowhere I hit something so hard and quick, I actually flipped over the handles this way. My head went down, my feet went all the way in the air, and I attempted to grab here and kind of control my fall. I just wanted to get away from the mower. But when it happened, it just happened so quick. I reached down to hit that recoil, but my hand hit right here instead. Straight down onto it. Basically it looked like if you took a sheet of plastic and threw onto that exhaust, because all the skin off my hand was still there. Actually, once I flipped over, I was stuck vertical and I had to pull my hand off of it, so most of my skin was still there. This was my 2nd year in the business that happened, and the neighbor seen it happen from his porch. The reason he was watching is because him and the previous owners used to argue over who had to cut that section, and I don't really know what the argument was over, because it clearly belonged to the house that I was mowing at the time for the new owner. It wasn't really debatable at all. So, but he was just looking out from his porch to see if I was gonna mow it, and I was. Somehow that stump, it was under the grass. It was my first time mowing it. It was under the grass, but tall enough to catch the front of the deck. It was only this big, the stump. So as soon as I got off of the mower, I went running for the truck, because I knew I had some ice water left over in my cooler, and I made it to the truck and I just like dipped my hand in there. It was severely burned. It was really burned. And probably about a minute later of being to the truck, see, the problem was the ice would only stop the pain for like 30 seconds. Then you had to let go of the ice, let that sit for about 30 seconds, and then put it back in the ice. So after a minute or two of being at the truck, the neighbor comes over, and he had a medical bag, not like a first aid kit. It was like a real medical bag. And coincidentally enough, the neighbor was a hand surgeon, and he said, "Hey, I seen what happened from my porch." He said, "Come over to my house so we can get you fixed up the best we can." Which I was really surprised, because I'm sure that's kind of risky as a doctor. But we went over to his porch. He cleaned me up. He actually gave me like a local, I don't know if you would call it a local, right around the burns. He gave me some injections, and it did help with the pain temporarily, but that would only last like I said, very temporarily. He cleaned everything really well, wrapped it up really well, and I said, man, I have to finish this yard. And I said, it was a Monday evening, probably around 6 o'clock at night this happened. And I said, I can't even miss a day of work. So he said, just he said, clean it and do everything I just did every single day before you leave for work. And he said, you're probably going to want to stop once during the day and do it too. So I didn't sleep for probably 3 nights. That's how bad the burns were. I did everything he told me to. To be honest, I don't even remember how I got through that next week or 2 weeks, man. There's nothing like burning like that. It's a whole different kind of pain. Not that I should really be complaining, you know. My buddy in middle school, I remember his name, I'm not going to use it. When he was 3 years old, his mom actually dumped a pot of boiling water right down his face. And it basically ran to one side of his face. And I mean, man, you would have had to seen his face to understand the poor guy. We were 12, we had to have been 12 years old, you know, like the last time I seen him. And this happened when he was 3 years old, and his mom was still in prison. So she disfigured him bad. He was still a real handsome kid though. But yeah, you know, so, and I remember him telling me, even though it happened at 3 years old, he said, even being that young, it's impossible to forget the pain, which was, you know, that he went through, being burned like that. Nothing even, me getting burned like that with my hand, I would imagine nothing even on the same scale, you know, on the face, boiling water. I mean, man, poor guy, you know. Hopefully he's doing well. I only mention that because I said how bad it hurt being burned that way. You know, I've been burned a few times actually, but that was probably the worst one. Like I said, looking at the exhaust, it just looked like a layer of plastic was on top of the exhaust. Because I remember when I pulled my hand off of it, it was stuck to it. You know, because like I said, I was stuck upside down from when I flipped over, because it's just what I grabbed, and I had to pull my hand off of it, and it was stuck to it. So it was bad. It was really bad. It is what it is, though. You know, those are the things that can happen when you don't pre-inspect something that you're mowing. Lesson learned. And you know what? I've done it since then. So maybe me thinking about this is a that lesson coming back. Hey, you've taken on new lawns and you did not pre-inspect the lawns prior to mowing them. Maybe that's why that got mentioned last week when me and Robbie did that job. So all right, I'm out of here. I'm heading home. If you liked the video, hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Let me know everything I'm doing wrong, and keep them edges clean, boys. I'm out.